Hell and welcome to my Story Spark channel. The story starts with Sophie getting ready for her first day as a manager at a publishing house. She is excited about the new role and looks forward to meeting the team. Upon arriving, she meets the CEO, Ronnie, who seems welcoming. Sophie organizes a meeting with the staff to introduce herself and make them feel comfortable. However, Max, a temporary technical worker, arrives late, disrupting the meeting and leaving a negative impression on everyone. Sophie notices his lack of professionalism and decides to address it later. After the meeting, Sophie goes to her office but is soon distracted by loud noises coming from the wall. Investigating, she discovers it's Max causing the disturbance. She confronts him and asks him to do his noisy work outside regular office hours so the staff can focus on their tasks. Later, Sophie holds another meeting with Friedrich, the literary director, and Denise, the public relations manager, to discuss plans for the company. That evening, Sophie goes home and talks to her husband, Johann, about her first day. She expresses her concern that the publishing house is outdated, still relying on manual systems instead of electronic ones. Johann listens, but doesn't seem particularly interested. Feeling a bit stressed, Sophie retreats to the bathroom and watches an exciting movie to relax before going to bed. The next day, Sophie is back at work when she hears more loud noises caused by Max. Frustrated, she confronts him again, telling him to stick to after-hours work as promised. Max doesn't seem to take her seriously, which irritates Sophie further. That evening, she stays late at the office to catch up on work and ends up watching an erotic movie on her computer to calm her nerves. Unbeknownst to her, Max sees her through a window and secretly takes photos of her. The next day, Max approaches Sophie outside her office. He reveals he knows what she was doing the previous night and shows her the photos as proof. Sophie is shocked and embarrassed. To resolve the situation, she offers him money to delete the photos, but Max refuses the money. Instead, he demands that Sophie take him out to lunch. Reluctantly, Sophie agrees. During their lunch, Max teases Sophie by asking why she watches erotic movies. Sophie tries to avoid answering, but the conversation is interrupted by her friend, who joins them unexpectedly. After lunch, Max assures Sophie he has deleted the photos, but she doesn't trust him and takes his phone with her to check for herself. At work, she feels triumphant for outsmarting him. However, Max devises a clever plan to retrieve his phone. He sets up a situation that forces Sophie to give it back, leaving her impressed by his intelligence. Sophie then decides to give Max her lipstick, telling him it represents her. Max is confused but accepts it. The next day, he sends Sophie a note explaining a game he has invented. Whoever has the lipstick can make a demand that the other must fulfill without objection. Sophie reluctantly agrees to play along. Max's first demand is for Sophie to yell at someone in the office. Sophie struggles to find an employee to scold, but ends up shouting at the secretary, who leaves early without permission. However, the secretary reminds Sophie she had previously approved her early departure, leaving Sophie embarrassed. Sophie returns to her office and notices Max watching her with amusement. The following morning, Sophie leaves the office in a rush and accidentally collides with a cyclist outside. They argue, but Max intervenes, organizing the scattered papers and returning the lipstick to Sophie. This signifies it's now her turn to make a demand. Later, Sophie asks Max to do something daring at the upcoming book fair. At the event, Max turns off all the lights, creating chaos. He then reappears, fulfilling Sophie's request. She congratulates him, and their bond deepens. One day, during a press conference, Sophie notices Max talking to the secretary and feels jealous. She whispers a challenge to Max, asking him to make the lunch more exciting. Unsure of what to do, Max sneaks into the kitchen and spikes the desserts with a harmless drug. When everyone eats the desserts, they become drowsy and fall asleep, leaving Sophie and Max alone. Sophie is both amused and impressed by his boldness. Their playful relationship continues to grow. Sophie invites Max to the pool and they spend the evening together. Their attraction culminates in an intimate moment, and they sleep together for the first time. Afterward, Sophie starts working from home, avoiding Max. Feeling hurt and abandoned, Max visits her house and confronts her about ignoring him. Sophie admits their relationship feels wrong but cannot resist him. Johan arrives unexpectedly, forcing Sophie to lie about Max's presence, claiming he is there to fix the dishwasher. The next day, Sophie apologizes to Max at work, and they reconcile. Max invites her to his shared home, where they spend the day together. He opens up about his strained relationship with his mother, who sees him as a failure. Sophie offers him comfort, and their connection deepens. However, Sophie's secretary notices their closeness and warns Max that the relationship could harm Sophie's reputation. Max dismisses the warning. Sophie later encourages Max to visit his family and even offers him the lipstick in exchange for attending his mother's birthday. Max agrees and introduces Sophie's photo to his family. His mother is shocked to see him involved with an older, married woman. Meanwhile, Johan announces plans to move the family to London, angering Sophie as he didn't consult her. At work, Sophie informs Ronnie of her possible resignation to move to London. Max overhears this and confronts her. Sophie ends their relationship, calling it a mistake, and throws away the lipstick. Heartbroken, Max collapses at work, while Sophie is equally devastated but believes it's the right decision. Later, Johan humiliates Sophie in front of friends, but this time she stands up for herself and refuses to let him belittle her. She storms into the publishing house wearing a bathrobe, interrupting a meeting. Seeing Sophie hasn't moved to London, Max realizes she stayed because of her love for him. Sophie defies societal expectations and embraces her feelings for Max, choosing love over tradition.